Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 7:13 p.m. Tonight we have Director Stepp, Director Ramirez, Director Teitler, and myself present, meaning we have a quorum. Thank you to our interpreter. Would our interpreter please share the interpretation instructions with our participants, and then we can turn on the interpretation function.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Sastri y soy la intérprete del...
Thank you. The first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any proposed changes to the agenda? No. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Directors, you've just approved the agenda as presented. Our next agenda item is our opening celebrations and updates by our acting superintendent, Chief Cole.
Thanks. Well, good evening. I want to start by introducing our new Chief of Staff, Public Information Officer, and District Election Official, Jonathan Landon, who has had an incredible amount of work to do from the minute he touched down and has done a great job really learning new systems. And he brings a lot of experience and organizational leadership to our team. And so we're really excited to have him here. So new member of our exec team. And just delighted to get to kick us off. I mean, we're back in school. And so want to really take this moment to celebrate and update you all on who's back and who's here, thinking of here being really our broad district. Want to talk a little bit about the work we're doing now and the work that lies ahead, and then really articulate how at this time of the year we come together to support our students' academic achievement, lay foundations so that we can make sure they develop the knowledge and skills and character to thrive. So we are in week 2 of school, and we have welcomed almost 5,900 preschool through 12th graders back into our buildings. I want to call out in particular the nearly 500 seniors in the class of 2024 who are ready to finish their last 10 months with us, finish out their career strong. And this is a tiny little number. We wish we had more space, but we also want to welcome the 40 members of the class of 2040 who started in our toddler classrooms this week. And again, we would love to blow that program up, but kind of fun to see the arc of the kids that we cover. Our students have returned with enthusiasm, with trepidation. They've returned to us a little bigger, a little bolder, and everything in between all of those pieces. We're delighted to have them back. We also welcome back our families, and we're so grateful they're giving pep talks to their kids. They're setting routines, schedules, trying to get kids up early. I've heard from a couple of parents that, man, those kids are tired and cranky. And at the end of the day, because it's a lot to get back into the groove of school. And we also know that the parents are out there navigating challenges flexibly, being responsive. I know that the 27th Street construction has caused a lot of challenges for buses, and people have been really working hard to communicate, make sure we're getting kids where they need to go. So we're so grateful to have our families back and working with us, and grateful to have their partnership. We also are welcoming back about 900 staff members. 600 of those folks are directly responsible for the education of our kids and student achievement. That includes our teachers, our special service providers, our school administrators, our early childhood teachers. And then we have another 300 of those folks, about a third of them are our support staff. So transportation, food services, facilities, front office teams, health teams, family liaisons, coaches. Our staff are back in schools. They're focused, they're optimistic, they're motivated. It's a beautiful thing about the school year cycle is that we're fresh and we're ready to go. And they're ready to support student achievement and well-being.
Chief Cole?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you have a number on the number of new teachers? Because I know you had new teacher orientation here.
I might defer to about 75.
75.
Okay. So yeah, so lots of new faces. And we welcome them even earlier in August with new teacher orientation. We're also welcoming probably around 50 professionals, partners from the Hope Center, Mountain Family Health Centers, ACEs, the Buddy Program, Youth Entity, Valley View Athletic Trainers, some of the partners that work in our schools with our students and student athletes. Next week, we'll get to welcome almost, the goal was 60. I think we have 59 bilingual parent mentors from Valley Settlement who are volunteers, really intensively trained and supported by Valley Settlement to support all kids in the classrooms where they serve. And importantly, to provide a linguistic and cultural link to support the academic success, in particular of our Latinx students and emerging bilingual students. So we cannot wait for the parent mentors to be back in classrooms next week. Really important partnership to supporting our Latinx kids. And what's really neat about those partners is their work and those collaborations really help our very small schools offer more programs, offer more services, provide more experiences, and more classroom support for our kids. And then there's another group of parent and community volunteers who we're also welcoming back. Our PTOs, our parent groups are starting to get meetings on the calendars, getting schedules going. Our booster clubs are already knocking it out of the park. Sports are already in high gear. Both Basalt High School and Glenwood Springs High School have a home football game this Friday. And the boosters are out supporting our student athletes. And so I just wanted to name all those folks and update you on who's back and who's supporting our nearly 6,000 students. And it's really a testament of how to support our small towns and small communities. We have a deep team of community support that circles around this group of kids to really help them thrive and learn. What's happening right now in our schools and in our teams and departments is we're starting to build culture, norms, and really focus on core academics. That's really how we kick off the year. We start really focusing on creating a sense of belonging, building relationships with kids and teams, and again, working on those academic foundations. We really want to set the tone of how we work together, how we treat each other in the classroom. We know that we can't reach our academic goals that we have for kids if they don't feel safe. And we know that both our kids, our staff, our families need to feel safe and seen and supported in order to really thrive and learn. So we're really building those foundations as we get back into it. And I do want to say that work around norms and how we treat each other extends to all the spaces that we operate in as the Roaring Fork Schools, including this public space and all the public spaces we inhabit. And so this is the time of year when we recommit to keeping those almost 6,000 kids at the center of everything we do. And that we want to recommit to remembering that the kids are watching us. They watch how we stay focused, how we treat each other, how we hold each other accountable with respect and dignity and grace. And I think at this time, we also want to remember that one of our strengths is small town relationships. And sometimes folks call it small town manners, in that we can rumble in these spaces. We can hold each other accountable. We can have difficult conversations. Our board just did a presentation about encouraging new candidates and talked about disagreement and how we work through that. But it's really important that we remember that we do this, that we disagree respectfully, that we work collaboratively across differences. And we have to, for lots of reasons, including the fact that we're going to see each other at City Market on Saturday in our pajamas. And, we're going to end up sitting next to each other at our kids' performances and sporting events, at concerts in the park. We're going to end up finding the last seat at the rodeo next to somebody that hopefully we can still get along with and work together. And I think what's really important is if tonight you're going to hear about the goals for our students' academic achievement that we're really aligning our systems to. And if we're going to meet those goals for student well-being, for student achievement and success, we have to pull together this team effort of all those people who are here, and really ground our work in strong relationships and transparency and keeping our students and their growth and learning really at the center. So what you're going to see a little bit tonight, we'll talk about the strategic plan. And so what this work is looking like on the ground. We have a really strong plan that's guiding us into the strategic plan for this year. We know that we're going to talk about a bigger plan coming, that'll set the tone for the next 5 years. But the plan you're going to hear about tonight builds on last year's learning acceleration plan. It builds on our unified improvement plan. It's been refined by our school leaders over the last couple months. It's been informed by student outcome data. We're starting to get indicators, and Chief Park will share more about this tonight, that we are on the right track, and we're really excited about that. But we are also honestly and openly going to look at where we continue to have really significant deficits, and we still have a really long way to go to meeting our goals around student achievement and academic success. Some exciting work. We're rolling out a new math curriculum for our elementary. We're strengthening our progress monitoring tools so that we can check and better adapt to student learning throughout the year. We're strengthening right now. I think a lot of families will start to see that we're strengthening our processes around attendance, monitoring, communication, and support. Just acknowledging that we can't do this work together collaboratively if kids aren't in the building. And so we're really leaning in on making sure that families have the support to get their kids to school on time, ready to learn. So that kind of wraps the celebrations and updates tonight. And just to underscore that, like, our kids are back. We're so excited. We're back in schools, building relationships, building culture, laying the foundations for the academic growth we want to see that we're going to support this year. We've got a great plan that's targeted, that's really focusing on how we're going to address learning gaps, especially for subgroups and all students. And that I think just the biggest message is that, like, we're ready to go and we know where we're going and we're really excited.
Thank you. Our next business in order is the superintendent report, and it will be a presentation from, I believe, Chief Park and Acting Superintendent Cole. Yeah, yes. And board, just as a reminder, our time for questions and discussions will be after all three pieces of the report. So it won't be after each piece of the report. So they'll go through all three topics, and at the end, we will ask questions and discuss.
All right, well, let's jump, if that's okay. If we could jump to the next slide. Oh, sure. Okay, so what we're going to talk about in our report tonight is the strategic priorities for our upcoming school year. This is work that you all have seen in the spring when we laid out the strategic priorities for this year, where we're headed. Chief Park will talk really specifically about our goals around increasing equity in student achievement. A quick update on the Meadowood project, and then we'll be really looking carefully at some of the CMAS and PSAT data from last spring and what that's telling us about where we need to go. Okay, so these are, when we look at our strategic plan for 23-24, these are really our core priorities, and you can see the initiatives off to the side. Increasing equity in student achievement is first. It's what we center. It's at the heart of what we do. Chief Park's going to talk about that in more detail in just a sec. We're also focused on making sure that we hang on to the brilliant and dedicated staff that we have, and that we're able to recruit staff to fill gaps. And so there's initiatives that we'll be working on this year that really lean into that retention and recruitment, and also with a real strong lens on striving to make sure that our staff reflect the diversity of our kids in our communities. We have some work to do there. Thirdly, and you'll be hearing a lot more about this at the upcoming board meeting, is we did kind of a soft launch of our strategic planning, beginning some work with some committees, and we got public input on the portrait of a graduate and core values for our district last spring. We will be bringing the tools and kind of the current iteration of those, the portrait and the core values. We'll kind of be re-engaging with the community around our current drafts in the coming weeks. Folks will get to work with some of the tools and drafts at upcoming back to school nights. The board will get to see some of that at upcoming meetings. That portrait of a graduate core values will lay the foundation for a strategic planning that will really, a process that'll include lots of community input, focus groups, and community visioning sessions that'll last throughout this fall and culminate in a 5-year strategic plan that we should start being ready to look at with all of you this winter. And it's in our cycle so far that, you know, our last strategic plan that's posted on all our walls really ends at the end of the school year. So it's time to recalibrate, redirect, and really bring together our community and lay that out. So you'll hear more about the strategic planning process at the next board meeting. But let's focus in on that first priority for a minute: increase equity and student achievement.
Thanks. Good evening, board directors. For members of the audience, I'm Stacy Park. I'm the Chief Academic Officer at Roaring Fork Schools. Thank you for joining us here. As Dr. Cole shared, one of our priorities is to increase equity and student achievement. Obviously, we're a school district, so this is our main work. And we have 3 initiatives that we are engaging in this year, which includes ensuring that all of our schools have a focus on creating a proactive, positive school culture. And what you'll see below each initiative are the initial SMARTY goals that are outlined for that initiative. SMARTY just adds on the inclusion and equity and embeds it within the actual SMART goal. Included within the school culture is, as you can see, an attendance goal, suspension and expulsion goal, not to have disparate outcomes by race, And then with our student belonging metric, monitoring how our students are feeling they belong, how much they belong, being responsive to our most recent panorama data. And our middle section is ensuring high quality instruction through ensuring that there is excellent instruction happening every day for all kids in every classroom. And this is building out or continuing to build out our work on the UIP last year and our learning acceleration plan. Some of our academic goals are included up there. And then the third initiative is continuing the work of expanding our CTE programming. I'm excited about the advancements we'll embark on this year, but we don't want to lose that, as that was one of the key initiatives in the most recent strategic planning process. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Cole to talk about Meadowood.
Great. So as we know, making sure that we have great staff is really critical to meeting our goals for student academic achievement. And supporting our staff means acknowledging the context of our community and trying to really lean into housing initiatives. The Meadowood project is one of our biggest projects to date. And there's details here. We're gonna bring you regular updates on the Meadowood project. I think the big headlines here are that we're on track with the timeline, we're on track with the budget. Lots of details about the technicalities of what's happening with construction, but delighted to see this project progressing on track and on budget right now. And let's jump into some data.
Great. Thanks. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into our most recent CMAS and PSAT, SAT data, which is from spring 2023. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail because I know there was a detailed staff memo that accompanied these slides, but I did want to just call out some highlights and trends. And so for this first graph, we see the CMAS ELA achievement comparisons for 3rd through 8th grade. The white line is for the state, purple is for 2023, blue is 2022, and then the light blue is 2019. As a reminder, we did not have data for 21-22 during pandemic. So that is a comparison there for pre-pandemic and quote post. A highlight here is that across our 3rd through 8th grade for CMAS ELA, we had a 3.1 percentage points improvement year over year from 2022 in achievement. And for context, the next highest increase in our district from one year to the next was in 2015 to 2016 with a 2.25 percentage points increase. So although 3.1 percentage points doesn't seem like a lot, it's actually pretty significant when you think about the next highest was almost 10 years ago. Overall, the students this year in 4th, 5th, and 6th graders are performing at levels consistent with pre-pandemic percentages, but we've not yet caught up with our state averages. When we're looking at growth for CMAS ELA, the dark green line here on this graph is the 2023 growth. And in ELA, our students are growing at rates that are higher than the state, as well as higher than previous years throughout elementary and middle schools. A particular highlight here is Carbondale Middle School, which demonstrated high CMAS growth averages in both ELA with 62.5 and math with 71. As we switch to CMAS math, again, we have achievement here, and the purple line is for spring 2023, and the white line is a state achievement. Of our 8th graders, 37.2% of students met or exceeded grade level expectations in math, and that's a significant increase from last year, and it exceeded both the state and 2019 performances, so that's a pretty good celebration. And then for growth with math, the previous 10 trend of student growth rates continues in mathematics, increasing the state, outpacing growth in the state and pre-pandemic rates. Here we have our disaggregated data for CMAS, ELA, and math achievement. And while nearly every subgroup increased in their percentile rank in elementary and middle schools, at Roaring Fork Schools, we do continue to experience a persistence in achievement differences in ELA and math between our various subgroups, including by race, FRL, eligibility, and emerging bilingual students. This is something board directors, as you know, we named as a priority in ensuring that we are growing across all the subgroups. We did grow, just not equivalent pace, which is why we have that embedded into our goals as well. I'm going to shift to the PSAT and SAT achievement. Students in our high schools in these grade levels have not yet returned to pre-pandemic achievement rates in EBRW, the evidence-based reading and writing, on the PSAT and SAT. We can see here that there's currently a downward trend in the performance across grade levels, but a subgroup highlight to note is that our students with disabilities actually grew both in their mean scale score and their percentile rank in EBRW, which is a notable highlight. And similarly with our growth rates in EBRW, although we are growing at a faster rate than the state, the rate that we want to get back to for pre-pandemic levels are not quite there. Here's our disaggregated data for EBRW, for PSAT and SAT for student subgroups. As I shared a couple of slides ago, our students actually with the students with IEPs in our 9th and 10th grade are achieving at higher rates than their counterparts throughout the state on the EBRW assessment of PSAT and SAT. For math achievement, 10th grade showed a significant improvement in achievement. You can see they're recovering from pre-pandemic levels, as well as outpacing the state. 9th and 11th are also outpacing the state, but you can see by a much smaller margin there for 9th and 11th. And for PSAT math growth, our district's high schoolers are not quite growing at the same rate as across the state. You can see lagging about 3 points behind across all grade levels as compared to the state. And then when we look at our disaggregated data, we're still not yet at where at least 50% of our students are scoring at or meeting or exceeding grade level expectations, but our Hispanic and Latino students are performing better than the average performance of Hispanic and Latino students in the state. So at the start of the deck, we shared some of our goals for our priority of increasing our equity and student achievement. And so schools have already begun digging into this work, sharing this data with their schools, and working on refining their goals as they think about the work laid out for this year. In particular, accelerating the growth of our subgroups. We also did a ton of work as a district on our learning acceleration plan last year, and we're continuing that work with revisions in response to our most recent data. And finally, we're honing in on ways, Dr. Cole mentioned this as well, on how we're monitoring progress and growth across the district with the application of our MTSS framework. Now open for board discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So we'll now go around and each board member will have 2 minutes and then we'll have 5 minutes of open discussion. And again, it will be on all 3 topics and we will start with Director Tytler.
Thank you for all that great information. I was wondering, as the first question that came to mind is, those are amazing math scores, especially in the high school level. And do we have any ideas why math versus evidence-based reading and writing were so much stronger in comparison? And is there something there that we can look to replicate into the reading and writing realm?
Do you mean for the disaggregated achievement or the achievement comparison?
In the achievement comparison, but it's just showing that in our math, that overall in 11th, 10th, and 9th grade, we're above the state in math, but in reading and writing, we're well below. And do we know why?
I have a theory. Well, one of the things that I think there are a lot of factors, of course, with talent and leadership, but in math in our high schools, we do have a common aligned curriculum. Illustrative math is one that's been used at the high schools. And so, now with the adoption at the elementary levels, now we have a K-12 illustrative math, but our high school levels with algebra, geometry, algebra 2, all of that, they do use the illustrative math curriculum. And I think it's powerful to have an aligned curriculum across our schools that is rigorous and implemented consistently. We do not have an aligned curriculum, although there is collaboration for our English classes. I don't mean to say that that is the one reason, but that is a factor that we have thought about.
Well, hopefully that's something we can replicate across the reading and writing also. And just want to say thank you for making equity and student achievement at the forefront of what we're doing. And I think it's so important to our process. And I hope, and I know it's probably your hope also, but that we continue to do work to bring in the parents into the process. And I think the example of like what Valley Settlement does and how that brings the parents into that educational aspect of what their students, their children are doing. I think if we can replicate something where we have more participation by all of our student groups, I think that's going to just help us. So hopefully you'll have great ideas to work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Stepp.
Thank you both for all that. A lot of information. And it's good to hear that the schools are digging into it more and aligning that with your UIPs. And it's really hoping to see that these numbers change over this year because we have such targeted interventions to help. One question I have is in the when you look at the disaggregated information,
For
Yeah.
which,
I'm looking at the math PSAT.
yes.
I mean, it's kind of all of them, but in general. So you have it broken out by English learners and non-English learners. And then you have Hispanic, white, and other. But in that Hispanic calculation, are those like English language learners and like newly arrived students, is that included in that number? I'm guessing I'm looking at like if you have a child that just arrived in this country and is put in 9th grade and is an English learner, you know, of course they're not going to be there. So is that a factor in why the Hispanic numbers are so low? And how do we help the newly arrived students, not only with the English skills, but you know, the subject matter skills? And I know that it's in the plan and we're working on it, but I'm just wondering if that number's included in the overall Hispanic number.
It does. So the students that are designated as Hispanic or Latino are included there. And if they are also designated as an English learner, then they are included in that percentage. And so we don't have in this table students who are both Hispanic or Latino and an English learner as a separate row, but these are the state designations and the reports from there. To your second question about how we support our newcomers, we do have newcomer courses in our high schools. And so it might be newcomer math, newcomer English. And so those are specifically designed to better support newcomer students, learn the content in a supportive way. And that's established with our schools or CLDE department, and also the course content teachers to teach that. Basically, they're not just thrown into a English only class to learn everything.
Hope they make it.
Hope, yeah.
I can ask this for another time, but is there any back burner? Is there any plans to help the students from the bilingual programs, like at Riverview, that are going into high school that don't have bilingual programs, like to continue, like if they started in kindergarten and now they're in 9th grade, but there's no continuation of that bilingual program. So is that something that we're looking at to continue and help that progression?
I think in high school, there are the choices that they have to take Spanish literacy, Spanish language, and continue their biliteracy work. And then of course we have in our high schools, I think last year, between 50 and 55, I can't remember the exact number, who did qualify for the seal of biliteracy. And so part of that included students who had been in dual language programs or not throughout their time here.
Thank you. Good job. Excited about the new housing.
Thank you. Director Ramirez.
Thank you. I first wanted to ask a question about the first strategic priority we're tackling. I'm just wondering, was there a reason why we chose CTE aside from it being something we've been talking about in this last year?
I think when we're thinking about the paths that students are choosing for college or career and helping them be prepared, it is building out that second part and continuing that work. It is a factor that it was included in the last strategic plan, but it's also based in responsive interest from students as well.
I guess my question really stems from the idea, you know, I like the language on it, and I'm obviously glad that we chose it, but you know, we've been talking about sports and gaps in students being able to participate in different types of, you know, clubs or activities. So I was just wondering where the prioritization came from for CTE and not like having schools tackle gaps on things that already exist, like clubs. I recently spoke with some high school students from Glenwood Springs High School, and that was one of the things that they shared was, clubs are not very representative of our school demographics. And so it was just something that I wondered how that priority came to be. I also just wanted to ask on our staff memo for the CMAS data, we put disaggregate growth data is not currently available for the district under CMAS results. Well, under almost all of them, but I was just wondering, is that in reference to the schools, to each school?
You're talking about disaggregated growth data available across the districts. The schools have their individual student growth data.
Right, so it says disaggregated growth data is not currently available by district. So I was just wondering, do you see it in the memo?
I do. I see that, but we have the achievement, but the growth. So that's what's included in slide 13, but we don't have the growth metrics yet across the district.
Got it.
Disaggregated.
Yep,
Yeah.
the disaggregated growth reports for SEMA.
Do we know when we will have that by?
We're hoping in the
This
next,
year?
yeah, very soon.
When we have these CMAS achievement and these slides, they
Director
show-
Ramirez, you've hit your time if you
Oh.
can wrap up. If you want
I'm
to
good.
finish this. Okay.
I'll do my second round.
First of all, thank you for preparing this. Data is obviously something that we as a board have been very excited that we've taken this in this direction, and we see so much data presented in the staff memo and the presentation. And I really appreciate the time that's been put into this to present it to us and to the public, because I think it's really important for us to see the positives and where there are still areas for growth and disparities. I just had one question around next steps and was wondering if you could describe a little more how we're planning to monitor progress and growth across the district throughout this year, and when we as a board can expect reports back. If that won't be until next fall, or if there might be some check-ins throughout the year.
Yeah, I think we can have check-ins throughout the year. We're trying to get tighter on the administration of some progress monitoring assessments like NWA, which has a fall, winter, and spring administration, and the Dibbles and Lectura. That's new, but the Dibbles windows were similar. And so we reported on that last year as well. And so those are two examples.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I don't have any other specific questions on this. Thank you to everyone on the work on Meadowood. That's exciting to see that we are on time and on budget. Pleasantly surprised on that one. I hope we continue to get that report throughout the year. So we'll now go into 5 minutes of open discussion as a board. And for this, Chief Landon, the clock actually does not stop. It just continuously runs for the 5 minutes.
So I did have one follow-up question. For the gifted and talented, do we know how many students are represented in that group?
I have to get the final numbers, but I can get that to you. I don't want to give you an incorrect number.
Can we also get disaggregated data for that on student demographics? Thank you so much.
The follow-up question I would have also, my question is, in the memo, it mentioned about the growth from Carbondale Middle School. And I know that from previous years, they've had high growth also at Carbondale Middle School. And so my question sort of is, what is the district doing as far as looking at what is happening at Carbondale Middle School? And are we trying to replicate or try to figure out what is the like magic there? What is it that's happening at Carbondale Middle School that could be done in the rest of the district?
We have, and part of that, sorry, am I answering? Are we conversing?
Yeah.
Okay. No. Including visits to the school. We actually have last year, all the leaders visited every school in their level at least one time. But part of it is to see what are the practices that are happening in our classrooms, go into classroom observations. And several things came out in the visit to Carbondale Middle School, which leaders noted, like a really tight focus on learning and academics. Because we're on task, there was a refocus. And I think, as we know, as part of a system, a lot of pieces go into that, like establishing clear expectations, reinforcing them, having it being on the same page with the staff. Part of that work is informing one of the initiatives, which is to make sure that schools have a positive and tight school culture that is clear, communicated, it's proactive. And so that's a big part of the work that our ED of schools is working on with schools this year, as one example.
Again, just a random question for a future. Of those 500 or so students who are graduating, of which one of them hopefully is my son, if I don't kill him before then. Has the state implemented anything or the school district to monitor the progress after the students move on? Like if they go to college, if they don't, if they are working, or if they go into the military, like, it's one thing to look at the state and that's one measurement of success, right? And some people don't test well. So can we look at other measures of success? Like, oh yeah, and I heard this number years ago, like, 85% of our students go to college. But how well are they doing there? And, that kind of stuff. And I know the state has been working on aligning some of those data systems, but I haven't heard if they've made any progress on that.
Mhm. I can't speak to whether and how much progress that's been made, but I do know that it is an interest of ours, including with our pre-collegiate programming but beyond folks, kids who are in the pre-collegiate program, what's happening as students are getting to and through career in college. And then beyond that, what happens? So it is an area of interest, I would say.
Yeah, it is. And it's
Mhm.
interesting. So thank you for keeping it on the forefront.
And then I guess I do have one other question. Thank you. I know last year we received information like sort of like a school report about how all the schools did. And here it says, for further information, look at assessment unit or school view. Is that something that later could be presented to us and sort of like a breakdown of each of the schools like was presented last year, or is that not in the works?
Are you talking about the performance frameworks? Or are you talking about like a school by school comparison of CMAS and PSAT?
I think a school by school CMAS and PSAT. Do we have that?
I don't have a slide for that,
Not
but
necessarily. a slide, but
I
is
think
that-
it was a school comparison for SPF that we shared. And we will have that. We just actually got that
Okay.
data today, but and we plan to present it at an upcoming board meeting.
Perfect.
And
That
that's
would be
the, yep. Mhm.
Is that data going to be on our data dashboard that we're creating? For each school,
Which data? The,
the test, like all of the CMAS for each school as we get it, will it be live?
the performance framework at least.
it could, yes. It will all be on school view for sure, but it could be something that we see if we can link in a dashboard.
I think that would be a good practice to have.
Just to
Just
dig
for
through,
sure.
like school view can be very consuming and
Mhm.
somebody has to know what they're doing and versus if it could just be like click, click.
It would, I know, it would be.
It would be much
Yeah.
easier for
Mhm.
people. to
everyone.
get
Yep.
that.
We actually just got a new director of data and assessment, Cami Newmeyer, who was also instrumental in preparing these decks. And so she has a lot of work that we started to do immediately. And so, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. We'll wrap up. At this time, we will welcome members of the public who have signed up to address the board. There's one speaker signed up tonight. The board allots 45 minutes for public comment. To respect the time of all who are present, speakers are to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Reminder to all speakers to uphold our procedures for public comment. We ask that you be thoughtful and constructive with your comments and thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. Members of the public who wish to share their views with the board may also do so in writing at any time. For this evening's public comment, I don't remember how many written comments we received. 10 written comments. Thank you, Chief Landon. Our first speaker tonight is Alan Kokish.
Thank you.
So first off, just thank you guys for taking the time. Betsy and I, for the meeting, have a newfound respect and admiration for what you guys do. So really, thank you very much. So my name's Alan Kokish. I've lived in the Valley since 1992. Excuse me. My son recently graduated from CRMS, and my daughter is a sophomore here at Roaring Fork. This past weekend was a little bittersweet for me as I sent my son off to college and had the unfortunate circumstance of attending a good friend's child's funeral. Aaron had recently transitioned from male to female and committed suicide. This horribly painful memorial caused me to self-reflect a little bit, asking how could Aaron have better been supported if Aaron had transitioned, excuse me, at an earlier age, might he still be with us, or they still be with us today? These questions will forever remain unanswered. As a community and a nation, I think we're all struggling with ways to better support people like Aaron. So while I understand the intent of the school board in implementing the sex ed for K through 8, I feel it's very misguided. As a father, I see it as my responsibility to teach my son about his sexuality. As a parent, I think it's a privilege to teach my children about their gender and their role in society. In no way do I see this responsibility to the Roaring Fork School District. I think it's a little presumptuous for the district to adopt a sex ed curriculum put forth by the group AFY. I believe most parents in the district do not agree with this board's decision to possibly confuse our very young children with concepts like gender identity. I urge the board to reconsider adopting this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. The next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel, minutes from a previous board meeting, and policy JQ on final read. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off of the consent agenda for a separate discussion and vote? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Call to vote.
Aye.
Director Ramirez,
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg,
Aye.
Director Tyler.
Aye.
Directors, you've just passed the consent agenda as presented. The next business in order is board reports and comments. We'll start with a board director election update by Chief Landon for the 2023 board director election.
Okay. One second.
Sorry, we're making you run.
Not worried. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you tonight about the election. It's very exciting. And I'm really encouraged by the results we've seen in terms of interest. And so I'm just going to take you through a few key dates. We did have a session right before the board meeting tonight where we went through this content as well as some information about becoming a board of director for the school district. So I encourage everybody to watch that live stream that's now recorded to YouTube. So the election's coming up on November the 7th. On August the 9th, we had a call for nominations, at which time I started distributing petition packets to prospective candidates for them to circulate to registered voters for signatures. Those candidate packets are due back to me by 3:30 p.m. on next Friday, September 1st, although I encourage candidates to submit that information to me sooner if possible so that I can start the petition signature verification process on their behalf. The deadline for write-in candidate filing is also next Friday, September the 1st. And the election cancellation for any no contest districts where there's only one candidate is September 5th. There's also a petition signature verification going on once the packets come back to me. For every candidate, they need to have 50 verified signatures from registered voters. And once that is completed, I then will hold a lot drawing to determine the order of candidates on the ballot for each of the 3 counties. And then I will submit that ballot content to the county clerks by September the 8th. We also will post the candidate information on our Roaring Fork School District website by September 8th. And then the election will be on November 7th, as I mentioned, and the results of the election will be determined no later than November the 29th.
Thank you, Chief Landon.
Hold on.
Oh, no, it's just updates. So we also wanted to provide during this section an update on the board retreat that was held on August 15th. The board met for a full day on August 15th to kick off the school year and went through a number of we felt were important topics. As part of that retreat, we revisited our operational and relational norms to set the tone for work for this year. We reflected on the role of the board, and the board is working towards a self-reflection and evaluation tool to put in place. We worked on the board candidate presentation that we did tonight, recognizing the importance of really informing members of our community who are interested in sitting in these seats and acting in this role. And also worked on a new board member orientation process that we're hoping to roll out this fall after the elections in order to help onboard the new members that are sitting here, as part of that, building out a board member handbook and just some more of that institutional knowledge for this body. And then also worked on reviewing our superintendent evaluation process. We did a lot that day as I'm going through this list, and revisited how it worked and how it felt for us as board members, as well as from the other side, how we can improve it and tweak it in years moving forward, and planned out some additional times to check in on that. And then finally did some work on our policy and work session cadence, which we spoke a little bit about in the information session, but the board's been consistently updating district policy at a pretty fast clip for the past year. And we're hoping to continue that work to get most of our policies up to date, and in compliance with state law. And also checking in about the work sessions that the board has been holding before meetings, which are open to the public and which are listed in our agendas each week, where the board has the opportunity to really speak to staff and get answers and dig deep on questions, in a format that's a little different than these public meetings. So we just wanted to share publicly a little bit about what we did that day. We did have members of the public come and sit. It was a noted meeting like all of our meetings and is open, but was not recorded and posted, as it was a full 8-hour day, and a time for the board to reset some of those norms and revisit those things that we're committing to doing moving forward. So we'll go around now if anybody else has board member updates. And Director Tytler, do you have anything this evening?
Not right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Stepp?
Yeah, I have two updates. One is that the school district hosted a group of industry and school district partners to develop a regional work-based learning model, for lack of a better term. So it's, includes the school district, some of the nonprofit partners like Youth Entity, Workforce Development Center, the college, but it's looking at how can we develop the pathways to give students different opportunities. And hopefully when we look at the new graduation requirements, we can include like what a work-based learning looks like, and that they're valid learning experiences. They're just not going out and doing grunt work. So that is moving along. That model is coming together, and hopefully we'll have something in place this fall. And then the other thing is, this morning, as a representative of the school district, I attended a Glenwood Springs Urban Redevelopment Authority meeting, it was actually a training on what URAs can do and how they can finance their work. So all the taxing districts have a seat on that board. So that work is going to continue and become more involved with some of the projects in Glenwood. I think that's it for me. Oh, no, wait, one more. Along with the schools or the students coming back to school, we as in CMC have been very busy enrolling students in the college classes. We had over 250 at Glenwood High School, Roaring Fork High School. I don't know the exact numbers, but Roaring Fork and Basalt also had a lot. And so again, creating those opportunities and different pathways for students, the collaboration, the partnership is continuing to grow and become stronger.
Thank you. Director Ramirez, do you have any? I just wanted to give a plug for the information session that's happening next Thursday, August 31st, that the Housing Task Force is holding an information session where board members will be present, but the task force will be presenting the work that they did throughout the spring and describing in more detail their recommendations and answering questions from community. So just plugging that as an update. If there are no other updates from the board, we'll now move on to our final agenda item, which is appreciations. We'll begin with Director Tyler.
I would like to actually give two appreciations. The first is much along with what Dr. Cole said at the beginning of this meeting, is all the people that have contributed to making this a successful start to the year. And I've been working for the last week and a half subbing at Roaring Fork High School. And it's just hard to remember the dedication and the difficulty and the task that is performed every day by teachers. And we heard about how children are coming home tired, but I know that teachers are coming home tired too. Yeah. And it's a big ask at the beginning of the year to have all those systems in place and set those expectations and hold students accountable. And it's just a big job at the beginning of the year. And so I just want to say a big shout out and a thank you to all the teachers who are doing that and doing that for our students' well-being. So thank you. And the second one is also what was brought up by Dr. Cole about the Valley Settlement parent mentors. I had the pleasure of having Valley Settlement parent mentors in my classroom for several years and seeing the impact that they make in the classroom and having that extra person in the classroom to help you as a teacher as a regular basis and not somebody who's just coming in and then leaving, where you can actually start setting up ways in which that is going to be able to help you in the long term. And you know, you can count on that person being there and setting up systems where you're able to be much more individualized to the student. But on top of that, even I know what the parent mentors get out of that program and the way that they're able to identify with what's happening with their children as students and being able to then participate and know what happens in the school system and know how the school system works is paying massive dividends down the road, because they'll continue to be involved, not just in the elementary grade levels where we're having this parent mentor, but then they're staying connected to their children throughout the whole process. And I know this is paying really great dividends down the road, as I said. So I just want to say thank you for Valley Settlement for having that within our school system. And thank you for the mentors who are part of that.
Director Stepp.
I have three, but I'll make them quick. First of all, to the staff at Glenwood Springs High School who took all 1,000, I don't know how many kids there are, on Adventure Day today. And they were all over the place and taking kids down the river and to the adventure park and here and there. And hopefully everybody got back safe. But that's a big undertaking, and kudos to them. Also, and you had mentioned this earlier, just all the support staff, but especially the bus drivers. I have to go through that mess at 27th Street every day, and it's not fun. And so for all the buses coming in and out of there, thank you. And then the third one is to Dr. Cole for agreeing to step up and try to wrangle all the cats. But we appreciate you, and basically all of you. Like, there's a lot of newness, and so Jonathan and Stacy, thank you for keeping the boat moving in the right direction.
Director Ramirez.
Thank you, and I echo all of the thank yous of my colleagues. I am particularly proud of our food and nutrition services team. I was one of the lucky school board directors that went to the Capitol to testify on the school meals for all. And so it was really important to me that our team made every attempt to become part of the 32 school districts across the state to be able to be part of the program for free school meals for all of our kiddos. My kindergartner started last week, and it's been really interesting to see her joy in getting a free breakfast and a free lunch. We obviously pack her all of the snacks, but there has been something really rewarding for me as a parent that she feels very connected to her school because all of her classmates are participating in that. So I just want to give thanks to Octavio Mays, to Michelle, to the team, to all of our lunch ladies, Miss Vicky at the middle school who loves all of those middle schoolers so loud, and I'm so appreciative of all of our school lunch ladies and staff and janitors who day in and day out and even during the summer show up to make sure our schools are ready for our students. Thanks.
Guys had a lot of mine, but I've got a couple more. There's so many people to thank at this time of year. I wanted to specifically call out Aspen Hope Center. I met our new clinician at Basalt Elementary School. They've placed clinicians in multiple schools, and I think we all understand how important having that support can be, and being able to partner with others in our community in this way makes a world of difference when we're in the situation we're in as a district with funding and everything else. So I wanted to call them out. And then I also wanted to call out in Basalt, we have bus drivers driving double duties, which is so appreciated. And then everyone who is working on the new system of student drop-offs in Basalt, because it is a complex system with walkie-talkies and signs in the windows and everything else. And they have handled it like champs. It was a last minute change the day school started, and everybody's done an amazing job with that. And it's there's still kinks to work out, but all the teachers rolling with it and being out there on the curb, protecting our students, making sure that everything is safe and that they're getting where they need to be. And then lastly, I wanted to shout out everyone at the district office who has been putting in work all summer to ensure this smooth start at the school year, because a lot of what's happening wouldn't happen without all of that being laid and all of that being in place. And just knowing that we've seen all of that work that you've been doing. We're very appreciative of it. And we know how excited you all are to see back to school and see everybody back in classrooms, but also a sincere thank you from us for all of the work that you all have done to get us to this point, to be able to start in the way that we have and have everybody back and hopefully happy, ready to go. So thank you. If there is no further business and no objection, the meeting will be adjourned. It is 8:11 p.m. Early. Unheard of.